Most people who try to mulch their garden with straw end up with more weeds than they started with, because they bought the wrong thing. There's a single word on the bale that decides whether you spend the season weed-free or fighting a lawn that took over your vegetable bed. Get it right, and you may never pull a serious weed again. Get it wrong, and you've just planted thousands of weed seeds yourself. I'll tell you that word in a minute. It matters more than anything else in this video. But first, you need to understand why mulch works at all, because once you do, the whole method makes sense and you stop guessing. Here's the thing nobody tells you about weeds. A bare patch of garden soil is not empty. Buried in every square foot of it are thousands of weed seeds, dormant, patient, waiting. Some have been down there for years, decades in some cases. They're not dead. They're asleep. And they're all waiting for the same wake-up call. Light. That's the trigger. Most weed seeds need a flash of light to break dormancy and germinate. As long as they stay buried in the dark, they sit there doing nothing. But the moment sunlight hits them, the clock starts. And here's the cruel irony of how most people garden. Every time you dig a bed, hoe the soil, or yank a weed out by the roots, you turn the soil over and drag a fresh patch of those buried seeds up into the light. You're not clearing weeds. You're seeding them. You pull one, and the disturbance you caused doing it wakes up 3 more. That's why it feels like an endless war. It is endless, because you've been arming the other side every time you fight. So the smartest gardeners stopped fighting that way. They realized you don't have to kill weeds if you simply never let them germinate. And the way you do that is almost embarrassingly simple. You cover the soil. You block the light. You keep those thousands of seeds in the dark where they stay asleep. No light, no germination. No germination, no weeds to pull. That's all mulch really is, a blanket over the soil that keeps the lights off. Now let me be honest with you, because this channel doesn't sell miracles. Mulch does not give you a zero-weed garden. Nothing does. A few tough weeds will still find their way up through gaps or blow in on the wind and root in the surface of the mulch itself. What a good layer of mulch does is cut your weeds by 80–90%. The handful that get through come up weak, in loose material, and pull out with 2 fingers in about 30 seconds. So when I say a no-weeding garden, I mean a garden where weeding goes from a dreaded Saturday chore to a 30-second walkthrough once a week. That's the realistic promise. And for a busy person, that difference is everything. So why straw specifically? Because for anyone short on time, it's close to the perfect mulch. It's cheap. A bale costs a few dollars and covers a surprising amount of ground. It's light, so you can spread a whole bed without wrecking your back. It lets water and air through to the soil instead of sealing it off the way a sheet of plastic does. It keeps the soil cool and moist underneath, which means less watering for you on top of less weeding. And as it slowly breaks down over the season, it feeds the soil, builds organic matter, and brings earthworms up toward the surface. So you're not just suppressing weeds, you're improving the dirt at the same time, doing nothing but letting it sit there. For a busy gardener, that stack of benefits from one afternoon of work is hard to beat. Spread it once, and it keeps working for months while you do almost nothing. But, and this is the whole reason I started with that warning, straw will absolutely betray you if you buy the wrong bale. There are actually 2 ways the wrong bale can ruin your entire garden, and most beginners walk straight into both of them without ever knowing the trap was there. One fills your beds with weeds. The other can kill the vegetables you're trying to grow. Let me show you exactly how to avoid both, starting with that one word on the bale. The word is straw, not hay. And those 2 words get used interchangeably by people who should know better, including some garden centers, which is exactly how beginners get burned. Here's the difference, and it's everything. Straw is the dried, hollow stalk left over after grain, wheat, oats, barley, has been harvested. The valuable part, the seed head, has already been stripped off and sold. What's left is the stem. Almost no seeds. That's what you want. Hay, on the other hand, is a whole forage crop, grasses and legumes, cut green and dried with the seed heads still attached because it's grown to feed livestock. Hay is packed with seeds. Spread hay on your garden as mulch, and you are broadcasting thousands of grass and weed seeds across your beds and then watering them in. You won't suppress weeds. You'll plant a meadow. So when you buy, you say one word: straw. And then you confirm it. Ask the seller directly whether it's straw or hay. And if they look confused or use the words interchangeably, walk away or inspect the bale yourself. Real straw is golden, hollow, and tubular, with few or no seed heads. If you see lots of seed heads and leafy material, that's hay, no matter what the label says. This single distinction is the difference between the weed-free season I promised you and a disaster you'll be fighting for 2 years. Now the second trap, and this one is more dangerous because it can kill your plants outright. Herbicide residue. Some straw comes from fields that were sprayed with long-lasting broadleaf herbicides. The chemical names to watch for are aminopyralid and clopyralid. These compounds are designed to persist. They can survive the grain harvest, survive being baled, and even survive passing through a horse's gut into manure. Spread contaminated straw on your vegetable beds, and it can stunt, twist, and kill exactly the plants you're trying to grow. Tomatoes, beans, peppers, and other broadleaf vegetables are especially sensitive. The maddening part is you can't see it or smell it. The bale looks perfectly normal. So here's how you protect yourself. Buy from a source you trust and ask whether the field was sprayed with persistent herbicides. Organic straw is the safest bet. And if you're not certain, run a simple bioassay before you commit a whole bed. Take a handful of the straw, soak it in a bucket of water for a day or two, then use that water on a few fast-growing test seedlings, like beans or peas, in pots. If the new growth comes up curled, cupped, twisted, or distorted over the next week or two, the straw is contaminated. Do not use it. If the seedlings grow normally, you're clear. 10 minutes of setup saves you an entire season's harvest. Get those two things right: straw, not hay, and clean of herbicide, and the rest of this is genuinely easy. Now the method, laid out in order. Step 1. Clear what's already growing. Mulch stops new weeds from germinating, but it won't smother an established, rooted weed that's already up and thriving. So before you mulch, pull or cut down the existing weeds. Get them out while the bed is bare. This is the one bit of real weeding you'll do, and if you mulch properly afterward, it may be close to the last. Step 2. And this is optional, but powerful for a badly infested bed. Lay down a barrier layer first. Plain cardboard or several sheets of newspaper, overlapped so there are no gaps, laid flat on the cleared soil and wetted down. This is a light-blocking layer that smothers any weed roots you missed and gives you a clean slate. Skip the glossy, printed stuff and remove any tape or staples from cardboard. The worms will break it all down over the season. For a normal bed, you can skip this. For a weed-choked one, it's the difference maker. Step 3. Spread the straw. This is where people get the thickness wrong in both directions. Too thin, under an inch, and light still reaches the soil, so weeds germinate right through it, and you've wasted your effort. Too thick, piled 6 inches deep and packed down, and you can choke off air and trap so much moisture that you invite rot and slugs. The sweet spot for straw is 2 to 3 inches of loose, fluffy coverage. Thick enough to block all light, loose enough to breathe. Fluff it as you spread it, rather than pressing it down. 2 to 3 inches every time. Step 4. Keep it off your plant stems. This is critical, and we'll come back to it, because it's the trap that kills plants. Spread the straw right up to your plants, but leave a clear gap, An inch or two of bare soil in a ring around each stem and around the trunk of any tree. Straw piled against a living stem holds moisture against it and rots it. Mulch the soil, not the plant. That's the entire setup. Clear. Optionally lay cardboard. Spread 2 to 3 inches of clean straw. Keep it off the stems. One afternoon. And then the part busy people love most. What you do for the rest of the season, which is almost nothing. Here's the maintenance schedule for a straw-mulched garden. Read it carefully, because it's short. Once a week, walk the beds and pull the handful of weeds that pushed through. They come up in loose straw with almost no resistance. 2 fingers, 30 seconds, done. Then, once or twice during the season, top up the mulch where it's thinned out or broken down to keep that 2 to 3 inch layer intact. That's it. That's the whole job. No tilling, no hoeing, no Saturday lost on your knees. For a busy person, you've traded an ongoing chore for a 5-minute walkthrough. That's the entire point of doing it this way. But there are a few traps that can still bite you, even when you've bought the right straw and laid it correctly. Let me walk you through them, because avoiding these is what separates a garden that thrives from one that quietly struggles. The first is the one I flagged earlier: mulch piled against stems and trunks. It's worth repeating because it's the most common plant killer in this whole method. When straw touches a living stem, it traps moisture right against the bark or the base of the plant. That constant dampness invites rot, fungal disease, and insects, and it can girdle and kill a plant from the base up. You see this most often with fruit trees, where people build a cozy mulch volcano piled right up the trunk. Don't. Pull the mulch back into a donut shape, with clear airspace around every stem and trunk. Mulch the ground, never the plant. The second trap is slugs and snails. A thick, moist layer of straw is a beautiful place for them to hide during the day and breed. In a wet climate or a damp season, mulch can turn a minor slug problem into a serious one, and they'll go straight for your tender seedlings and lettuce. This doesn't mean skip the mulch. It means stay alert. Keep the layer on the thinner side in wet conditions, leave that clear gap around vulnerable plants, and check under the straw near anything that's getting chewed. If they get bad, that clear ring of bare soil around each stem becomes your first line of defense. The third is subtle and surprises people: a temporary nitrogen drawdown at the soil surface. As straw breaks down, the microbes doing the work pull a little nitrogen from the very top layer of soil to fuel decomposition. For established plants with deep roots, this is a non-issue. Their roots are well below the zone where it happens. But for shallow-rooted seedlings and direct-sown seeds, that thin surface layer matters. So the fix is simple. Don't bury tiny seedlings or fresh seed rows in straw. Mulch around established plants and transplants, and wait until seedlings are up and growing strongly before you tuck the straw in around them. Once the plant has real roots reaching down, the surface effect doesn't touch it. So who is this method actually best for, and when should you hold off? Straw mulch shines in vegetable beds, around established transplants like tomatoes, peppers, squash, and beans, in pathways between rows, around fruit trees and bushes, and in any bed you want to plant once and then mostly leave alone. It's close to ideal for the busy gardener growing real food who can't be out there every day. Where you go easy is in consistently wet, poorly drained ground, where the extra trapped moisture can do more harm than good. There, keep the layer thin or choose a different mulch. And hold off on heavy mulching around very small seedlings and fresh sown seeds until they've established, for the nitrogen reason we just covered. Outside of those situations, straw earns its place in almost any garden. Step back and look at what you've actually built here. You haven't just stopped weeding. You've covered the soil so weed seeds stay dark and dormant. You've slashed your watering, because that straw holds moisture in the ground instead of letting the sun bake it out. You've kept the soil cooler and steadier through summer heat, and you've started a slow, free feeding program, because every month that straw breaks down a little more, it builds organic matter and draws earthworms up to do the tilling you used to do by hand. One afternoon of work, the right bale, laid the right way, and the garden starts taking care of itself. That's the real promise of mulching done right. Not less results for less work, more results for less work. Which is exactly what a busy person needs from a garden. So this season, before you spend another weekend fighting weeds the hard way, try it. Clear the bed once. Lay down 2 to 3 inches of clean straw. Straw, not hay, tested clean of herbicide. Keep it off the stems. Then step back and let the soil go dark and quiet underneath, with those thousands of weed seeds staying right where they belong. Asleep. If this finally made sense of why your weeding never ends, and showed you the one word on the bale that changes everything, type the word GROW in the comments and hit the like button. It tells me to keep making these, and it helps the channel reach other gardeners who are tired of losing their weekends on their knees. Cover the soil. Buy the right straw. Then go enjoy your weekend. I'll see you in the next